So IBF Cruiserweight champion Jay Opetaia is reportedly in talks to face his mandatory challenger, Riakporhe. Now, typically, when a champion makes a mandatory defense of his title, all of the things that fighters will tend to argue about during negotiations, such as purse splits, the location of the fight, and which network the fight gets screened on, those things are taken care of by the sanctioning body, basically, in this case, the IBF. And the reason for that is because in a mandatory defense, the sanctioning body will dictate the purse split. So the two different fighters, they have no say over who gets what split. The promoters have no say. It's the sanctioning body in a mandatory defense that will dictate it. And it will be typically somewhere around 70-30 in the champion's favor for a mandatory defense. And so what then happens is the fight usually ends up being in the champion's backyard or in his location of choice and on his network of choice. Why is this? Well, think about it. If it goes to purse bids, the champion gets 70, the challenger gets 30. That de-incentivizes the promoter of the challenger to actually win the purse bid, because if he wins the purse bid, he's paying both guys' purses. He's only getting a cut of the challenger's purse, which is 30%. He doesn't get a cut of the 70% that the champion's getting. So from the perspective of the promoter of a challenger, they're not so keen on trying to win a purse bid, especially if it's a really big bid. They're not so keen on trying to do that because they don't stand to make that much money from the fight. In fact, they could lose a lot of money from the fight if they win the bid and have to pay the champion's purse. So typically, in mandatory defenses, the champion ends up winning the purse bid, getting 70% of the money, having the fight on whatever network he wants, in whatever location he wants, and so on. But in this situation with Jay Opetaia, things might be a little more complicated. First of all, because Opetaia won a court case, some type of court battle, against his promoter, Dean Lonergan, a few months back. You can go and read reports of that online. And that ostensibly left him a free agent. Now, Dean Lonergan since came out and said that the battle is not over and he disputes the court finding and all this kind of thing. I'm not sure what's going on with that. But if Opetaia is a free agent, well, I haven't heard of him signing with any new promoter. Maybe one of you guys out there has, but I haven't heard of anything like that. So if he has no promoter, then presumably he has no TV deal. And in boxing, most of the money comes from television. It's the TV networks that give the promoters the budget to put on fights. That's how it typically works. There are some exceptions like Saudi Arabia, for example, but in 99% of cases, it is the television networks that give the promoters the money to make fights and to win purse bids and so on. So if Opetaia's got no promoter, then presumably he's got no TV deal and therefore no money to put a fight on. Are there other investors in Australia who might be interested in helping him put a fight on himself, promoting it himself? Maybe, but logistically, putting fights on, putting shows on is more difficult than you think. Okay, it can be a nightmare, especially if you've never done it before. And it's costly as well. In this scenario, again, if Opetaia is a free agent, what makes more sense is for him to allow it to go to a purse bid. Just put the fight on the open market and the highest bidder will take care of everything. They'll put the promotion on, they'll sort out the TV stuff, they'll do everything. That would seem like the most logical thing for Opetaia and his team to do. And I have to imagine that they're putting feelers out there right now to see who might bid what if they put the fight on the open market. Now, obviously, on the other end of the equation, you've got Ben Shalom and Riakporhe. Ben Shalom, ideally, will want the fight to be in the United Kingdom. And the boxing industry in the UK is much bigger than the boxing industry in Australia. There's way more money in UK boxing than there is in Australian boxing. The networks in the UK have got much bigger budgets for boxing than the networks in Australia. So if they really wanted to, Sky and Shalom, I'm sure they could get the fight in the UK. But again, they might lose money doing it because Jay Opetaia is going to want a small fortune. They might have to go to a purse bid in order to entice Opetaia over to the UK. And from what we've seen in recent months, Sky and Shalom don't really like going to purse bids. I mean, we saw that with the Fabio Wardley-Fraser Clark situation. They wanted to sort out a deal rather than allow it go to purse bids, because if it went to purse bids, DAZN could have got involved and won the bid, and it could have ended up on DAZN and all that kind of thing. They didn't want that. And same situation here. If it goes to a purse bid, you could get Eddie Hearn, who has put shows on in Australia before, winning the purse bid and having a fight in Australia. So I would imagine that Ben Shalom and Riakporhe are trying to work out a deal, seeing what they can do with Sky, what they can offer Jay Opetaia to entice him over. But worst comes to worst, it goes to a purse bid on the open market. And again, from the perspective of Jay Opetaia's team, that would seem preferable, because in a purse bid, you're going to maximize the amount of money you get paid. And when you're the champion, you're getting 70% of whatever somebody bids. So yeah, let's see what plays out here. I think that there's still a pretty good chance the fight ends up in the UK. But again, it all depends on how much Sky and Ben Shalom believe in Richard Riakporhe, because it would be an investment. You're probably going to lose money on the show, but if you think that Richard Riakporhe is going to be, let's say, a long reigning champion, a star in British boxing, then you'll make your money back in the long run, and therefore the investment will be worth it. So we'll see what they do. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section below, especially if you're from Australia and you've got maybe more information about Jay Opetaia's promotional situation, what's going on with Dean Lonergan and all that kind of thing. Does he have a promoter? Does he have a network? If not, as I said in the video, where's he going to get the money from to put the show on? Because if you don't have a television deal, and let's say you self-promote a show for the first time ever, you got to sort out who's on the undercard. And since you're not normally promoting, where are you going to get the fighters from? It's not like you got a big stable of fight. Where are you going to get the fighters from? So you got to work with other promoters and use their fighters. And then you got to work out contracts with them. And maybe they've got to work out contracts with the network. And it gets very complicated. Why deal with all that headache? Why not just put the fight on the open market, let it go to a purse bid, and whoever wins, they'll take care of all that. And you get paid the most amount, you know? The only caveat I'll add to it is perhaps Opetaia would be concerned about Lonergan winning the purse bid, you know, maybe bidding for the fight and winning, and he wouldn't want to fight on a Lonergan show anymore since he's been embroiled in this legal battle with him. I don't know. I just thought that was worth throwing out there. So yeah, I'll leave it there. Let me know what you guys think about this situation in the comment section below. Are you sick and tired of the mainstream mindset? Does the dogmatic conformity and pathological ignorance have you tearing your hair out in frustration? Then don't be alone. Come and join our brotherhood on Patreon. We stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. You'll gain access to my weekly topical podcast, where we take more deep dives than Jacques Cousteau on an endless variety of subjects. There's also videos, interviews, live Q&As, as well as a vast back catalogue of previous episodes, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen via the Patreon app or download in high-quality MP3. Connect with myself and hundreds of other members in our Element chat group. There's no contract, no commitment, you can cancel at any time, and it's cheaper than a Mickey D's McMuffin. Just head to my Patreon page via the link below this video and select the tier called the Brotherhood of Reason. I'll see you over there.